It's a big day for the Big Red. Nebraska picks up a huge commitment from Ochaun Mathis, the top unattached player previously at 247 Sports Transport Portal Rankings. I am Mike Schaefer, joined by Michael Bruntz. We are here to break down the big addition for the Huskers. Some might argue the biggest transfer portal addition in this class. That, of course, Bruntz gets into a debate of quarterback versus every other position on the field, but certainly the one with the most fanfare, and I'm not sure that it's close. Give a lot of credit to the Mathis family. They built up quite a bit of excitement for this one. I know that we were both watching on the stream. They were counting the numbers as they were rolling in. It started at like 1,000, and then it was 1.2, and then 1.7, and then 2.3, and then at one point, I think the height of it, they were up over 5,000 views on Twitter before he even announced that commitment. And they were on Facebook and they were on Instagram. Lots of excitement for Ochaun Mathis. Michael Bruntz, why are the people so excited?
It was like the third largest city on social media today.
I don't think it was that big, but
I mean, it's a big one. I mean, there's no, and that's not hyping the day up. I mean, that's an important one for Nebraska. I mean, I think as much as we've harped on how the defensive line and that defensive front is a big question mark, Nebraska recruits with its elbows out and beats out Texas for Ochaun Mathis, who's a local kid there near Austin.
very local.
Like very local, yeah.
25 minutes to campus. So this is a pretty giant win in just all things recruiting, let alone the position.
Yeah, well, and two, I think it's kind of the first real big head-to-head battle, I think, that has played out publicly for Nebraska in the NIL era that we are very, very presently living in. So for all those reasons, it's a big one, and that's not even talking about the production and body of work that he brings from his time at TCU. So where do we want to begin? Because it's I think it's a noteworty day. I apologize that we don't have special music to for this kind of a commitment, but this is really the first time we're going through it.
What kind of music would you want for the commitment post cast thing that we're doing here? Post commitment cast. I don't know. We'll come up with a name. We'll work on it.
Just a lot of cowbell, probably with a little bit of horn.
Oh.
That would be what you'd need.
That sounds miserable to me. That sounds really bad.
Where do we go? I mean, this you correctly had your crystal ball in for Ochaun Mathis to Nebraska.
I mean, I was wrong for about 97% of this recruitment. So
you landed the plane though on Friday evening.
Thank you.
You should be rewarded for that. But why is this a big commitment in your mind?
Well, let's start with the on the field stuff because we're going to have plenty of time to discuss. I mean, all of it, but really, before we dive into what it means for Nebraska to be able to kind of go into Texas and pull a kid that the University of Texas really wanted, here's what it means on the field. Nebraska got better in terms of adding a defensive player that can be disruptive, that can play opposite of Garrett Nelson, that adds to what continues to look to be a 4-3 defense for next fall. And he is a guy that has 13 sacks over his last 2 seasons. He's someone that has the ability to set teams behind schedule. We talk about this with Nebraska's offense a lot, that, they want to stay on schedule. They're bad when they get off schedule. Well, you know what Nebraska hasn't done a great job of? Getting other teams off schedule consistently. That's what somebody like Ochaun Mathis can do. And if he takes attention away from Garrett Nelson or Caleb Tanner or Ty Robinson in the middle or some other blitz package that you assemble that gets Luke Reimer to go up the middle, you can't block everybody. And especially one of the things that you lose without Damian Daniels is a guy that took on a lot of blockers or commanded a lot of attention just because of sheer size. Ochaun Mathis isn't going to do that because of size. But if you have to keep a running back in, if you have to keep a tight end to chip them, if you slow them down in how they want to play offense, that's just another thing that a defense can do. And Ochaun Mathis gives Nebraska the ability to be more disruptive than they have been. I mean, when you and I and BC, we do these podcasts and we talk about how this team can improve upon last year, it's going to be really hard because I think they're missing some pieces that were really helpful in that defense last year, but they could be more disruptive in ways that they weren't. I mean, it felt like a lot of last year was just to help guide the other team off the field, lead them to a punt. You get your offense back out there. If Ochaun Mathis can bring some pressure, he ups the amount of hurries or hits or knockdowns, whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be sheer sacks. That can lead to turnovers. That can lead to takeaways. I mean, these are the sort of disruptive things that Nebraska hasn't done enough of on defense to not only help you get off the field, but set up field position for your offense to go and score. And so I think Ochaun Mathis is huge in that regard. It's huge because of the depth concerns that they have on that defensive line. Though, again, he is going to be an edge rusher. It's not quite the same thing where some of their depth concerns are, in the interior. And then it maybe allows you to use someone like Caleb Tanner in a little bit different fashion instead of having to play opposite of Garrett Nelson. Now it sort of seems to me, Brunson, feel free to correct me if I'm way off base here, but you're looking at Garrett Nelson and Ochaun Mathis as your two defensive ends. You can maybe work Caleb Tanner into a little bit of a different role. I don't know what exactly that's going to be, but he is a very athletic guy. And there's a reason he was a 4-star on 247 Sports. We have seen flashes of his pass rushing ability, his athleticism. I mean, you watch as I do before the games, and they're doing those linebacker drills where you got to catch and you got to get 2 feet down before you're out of bounds. And you have to have short area bursts for all of that stuff. I mean, he's a great athlete. So I think anytime Eric Shenander gets to go into his toolbox and gets to be a little bit creative, Nebraska's better off for it. And I'm actually excited what this move might mean for a Caleb Tanner.
Yeah, I kind of going back to your point about, just the types of plays that Nebraska's defense has lacked. They have not gotten off the field at a high rate. They have been a little bit more of the bend but don't break variety, and part of that has been lacking the type of playmakers on the edge that you have to account for as an opposing offensive coordinator. And I think Ochaun Mathis certainly will attract attention based on what he can bring to the field as a pass rusher. I think the fact, like you said, that you have Caleb Tanner as a veteran, you've got Garrett Nelson as a veteran, who I think is on the cusp of a breakout even more than he has been. I think, as you've alluded to in the past, his numbers have been sneaky good already. So I think the biggest thing for Nebraska's defense, aside from the depth concerns up front, are how do you create those havoc plays, the sacks, the forced fumbles, the hurries on third down to get off the field. And I think that's what you hope that Mathis can bring and give you an immediate boost. I'm what he said during his brief little Q&A on Twitter when he wasn't showing off his dog and things like that was Yoda. Yoda was that Nebraska had told him that they had kind of pitched him on the things that they would be able to do with him in one-on-one situations and freeing him up for opportunities to get at the quarterback. So I'm eager to see what that looks like. That I think they have a guy that can take advantage of those opportunities. And it's frankly been, we're probably going on 7-8 years since Nebraska's had that kind of guy off the edge that commands a double team, or Randy Gregory at times is being triple teamed by some opponents. So that's definitely a nice toy for Eric Shenander to have as he's dreaming up blitzes and ways to create pressure on opposing offenses.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I have to imagine that for Mathis and the people around him, as you look at the Big Ten and the offensive linemen they produce, his goal is to get to the NFL. You get that kind of practice, you get those sort of reps each week in the Big Ten. And I just, and that's not to take anything away from Big 12 offensive linemen, but it's just a different conference. It's a different style. I mean, teams play more like NFL offenses in the Big Ten than pretty much anywhere else in the country. And you have the opportunity to kind of measure yourself against guys that you're hoping to see on Sunday. And I think that had to be a part of it. Now, we talked about the on the field. Off the field, what Ochaun Mathis means in just the base sense. Nebraska has the ability to play in the deep end of the pool against a fellow blue blood program for a kid that is perceived to be a difference maker. I mean, I don't want to oversell what Ochaun Mathis can be. I think he's a starter. He can be a disruptive player. But he's also the best of what he is in the portal. And as if we've learned anything about free agency in any sport, when you are the best of what you can do, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best that's out there in your sport, but it does mean you're going to command quite a bit of attention. And with that attention comes some pretty interesting financial opportunities. The NIL package, we don't know what it is going to be exactly. It likely and doesn't have to come to fruition what those exact numbers are, but it is clear from all indications, from all reporting that we have done at Husker 24/7, and certainly reporting that I've seen elsewhere, that Nebraska is heavily involved. Nebraska's collective, I guess, if you will, or NIL faction, is heavily involved and made an offer to Ochaun Mathis that either Texas couldn't quite match, couldn't exceed enough of, or it was strong enough on merit that it was enough for the Mathis camp. So I think what this means to me is that if Nebraska again can show progress on the field, can move the ball forward with the record and with what this program is capable of doing, they remain a team that can be incredibly competitive on the recruiting front, both in the portal and with high school kids. And I know that this is just one deal of multiple things they have going on in the 2022, 2023, sort of joint cycle. So I look for Nebraska to continue to be heavily involved from an NIL standpoint. They have that capability. And Ochaun Mathis is the single biggest data point that we have for that right now.
Yeah, and it's like I said earlier, it's a little bit of a different recruitment from other transfers that Nebraska's. I mean, they brought in a ton of transfers, so that the fact that it's later in the cycle, you have it played out pretty publicly. You had Ochaun Mathis standing at the 50-yard line with Trev Alberts, and every Nebraska coach that would come over and talk to him before the spring game. So it's a little bit different than a Casey Thompson or a Chubba Purdy or somebody like that who, kind of made their visits and then, made their announcement, even though I'm sure NIL was a big piece of that too. But it's interesting because that allows Nebraska, I think, to kind of punch above its weight class a little bit based on what's going on the field right now. I don't think that's, a hot take by any means. Nebraska has not gotten it done the last 5 years, and that matters. But I think this is a little extra piece to a recruitment for refilling your depth at certain positions that you can go out and make. And I think Nebraska certainly has shown that they have a compelling case to make. I think it's a location that should be attractive to transfers, especially guys who are comfortable going away from home that are maybe looking for something in like a second destination, I guess, like a Casey Thompson, a Chubba Purdy, somebody like that. So it's I think everybody's going to want to go big picture on this. And what does this mean in NIL and what does it mean for Nebraska? I think what it means is that they can be competitive more so than what you would expect for a team with the record that they've had the last 5 years.
The follow-up for Nebraska, and Michigan State capitalized on this, is you need Ochaun Mathis to be productive, just not only to help your program, but as a selling point when you turn around and you try to do this again in a year or in 2 years. And you can say, hey, we helped get this kid to the NFL. Hey, we helped make this guy an all Big Ten performer. And I look at Casey Thompson in that regard. I look at Ochaun Mathis in that regard. I look at Tommy Hill in that regard. I mean, Nebraska is going to have opportunities to continually sell what they can do from an NIL standpoint, from a transfer portal standpoint, and then continue to try to set themselves up as they pull this program back to where they want to be. And so, that's the next step. You get Ochaun Mathis here. Not only do you want it to work from a record standpoint, but if it can work to where he performs well and you're able to kind of use that as a poster boy, that makes it easier for you to be able to go into the portal and point at guys. I mean, Michigan State's been able to use Kenneth Walker and Crouch and some of these other guys that they've had that came and had success for a program that immediately went from really poor in 2020 to competitive in 2021. Is Nebraska going to be at that level? We'll find out. But I've always kind of felt like Nebraska's in these situations where it's like, when it feels like, oh, this could be a turning point. Maybe. The key to a turning point is you got to continue that momentum. Off-season momentum is glorious until you get to the first game. But if they can make it count, if Mathis can make it count, if he has a strong season, the ramifications of that are really, really strong, and the ripple effect is pretty big too.
Yeah, and it's he even kind of alluded to this in his brief comments, was that, this is kind of a 1-year thing. Like, he's looking at going to the NFL next year. That's what his goal is. And that's the opportunity for Nebraska, is not only the win-loss stuff, but can you take this guy who was very productive in the Big 12? Can you transfer that to the Big 10, and can you build on that? I mean, even, Oklahoma was kind of the way, had that reputation too with transfer quarterbacks, where you hit on a couple of these guys and you kind of start to build it a little bit that way too. So, I think that's the opportunity, but that has felt like the opportunity at Nebraska for quite a while. If you could just get it a little bit farther down the road on the field, that's what you have the chance to do. But this is as I know a lot of people want to kind of roll their eyes a little bit at off-season wins, but I mean, this was a real big one.
Yeah, absolutely. As we kind of finish up here, Devin Drew, all attention turns to the Texas Tech transfer defensive lineman. There was thought that announcement could be coming this weekend, maybe even here on Saturday, a little double barrel action for Nebraska. We'll see if it comes to that with Devin Drew, but I feel good about where things kind of sit there just based on what I've heard sort of throughout the week and everything. That is an interior defensive lineman from Texas Tech that would probably be right there pushing Nash Hutmacher in that rotation on the defensive line, and would be a really nice kind of addition for a program that had a little wind taken out with the Casey Rogers departure as well. And then after that, Nebraska is going to be active. I mean, they made an offer, Brunts, the other day to a safety that has multiple years of eligibility. You've talked with Lamar Goods, the defensive lineman that attended Florida out of Canada. He is someone that you wouldn't expect to produce immediately, but could help backfill a little bit. They're going to still be active in the transfer portal. It doesn't stop today with Ochaun Mathis.
No, and with the May 1st deadline for guys wanting to be eligible this fall, there's still guys, as of this afternoon, that were popping up in the portal, and really they only have to have the paperwork in by May 1st. So it could be as late as May 2nd or May 3rd before you actually have that name pop up. So that's kind of where the college football is now. That this deadline of May 1st, I think, kind of will make the next 48 hours or so kind of interesting to see where things go. But I think for Nebraska, again, a program that has some spots you need to get a little bit more depth, a little bit more talent, and the portal is, as we know, the easiest way to do that. And Nebraska has no qualms with bringing in transfers.
Absolutely. All right, Brunts, any final thoughts before we return to our Saturday routine of, I don't know what it is for you, but I'm going to go watch the A's and Guardians here for the rest of that game. It probably won't be as exciting as the Friday night contest. So.
That doesn't sound like a good use of your Saturday.
It's wet out. We can't go for long walks. Shelby's taking a nap. What else am I going to do?
it's almost time for that time at the end of the NFL draft where it's undrafted free agent time. So that we're going to be dipping into that.
All right. Well, undrafted free agents, drafted Nebraska players, all of that and more. Recruiting, you can find it all at Husker247. Plenty of stuff going on this weekend. They even canceled the baseball game today to let Ochaun Mathis have this moment. I thought that was very nice from Will Bolt and his program. Bruns, they'll be back in action on Sunday, right?
They will. Doubleheader. Huskers and Hawkeyes. Be there.
Just the excitement emanating, just radiating from Michael Brunch there. All right. For Michael Brunch, I'm Mike Schaefer. We are Husker247. We'll be back next week with some more podcasts. And keep an eye on that transfer portal. A lot happening.